Welcome to the Why Music podcast, where we talk to independent artists about their journeys, the inspirations behind their music, and ultimately why they make music. This next act is an alt rock band based out of Connecticut, bringing a new take on indie rock with flavors from bands like The Killers. Every song they drop will remind you of the good days with a hint of nostalgia. Welcome the Inside Out.
Howdy,
Hey,
howdy. Thanks for
Hello.
having us.
I always like to start with where your music journey kind of all started. So that'll probably kind of go individually, and we'll just kind of jump around however you guys please.
Yeah. Andy, why don't you start?
all right. Yeah, my music journey started with piano at age 5 and then saxophone and flute in elementary school, but none of those, I didn't really fall in love with all of those, even though I thought it was really fun. And then in high school, my brother got a cheap drum set for Christmas that he never used, and I kind of just taught myself how to play the drums just kind of randomly, and I became obsessed with it, and I've been drumming ever since. So yeah, that's how I got started.
Yes,
Nice.
for me, I started pretty young. Started going to these like music classes when I was like a very wee one, probably like 2 years old. Then begged the leader of that music class, who happened to be a cello teacher herself, to take lessons. So I started with her at 3, then picked up a guitar bassoon at 10. After that cello teacher actually gave me an electric guitar, and then my mom was like, "Oh God, he's gonna like switch over or something like that." And then pretty much self-taught just after taking a few lessons, and just fell in love with it.
John.
Yeah, yeah, John. Yeah, John,
Okay,
go.
I'll go. I started playing guitar when I was like 12. I got a guitar for Christmas. And then from there in like high school, got into like music production. Uh, and then I was just like a bedroom guitar player for way too long. And then I discovered bass, started playing bass, and then the Inside Out found me on Craigslist. So here I am.
Nice. Yeah, luckily he didn't murder us all. I started drums when I was in elementary school, actually. That was my first instrument. And then I didn't actually pick up any other instrument until I was like 15, 16 years old. I picked up a bass guitar, and then kind of, got a little bored with that and added regular guitar to that. Started like some bands, started writing music in like high school, and then I ended up changing my major in college to audio production and music business. And now I own a studio with Zach, and it's kind of all just been like developing since then.
So another Craigslist band, which is honestly like to me the most out of pocket thing I've heard doing these. And to think that it's happened now twice of the, however many acts I've had on here is crazy to me. But you guys are successful, 2 for 2. We're 2 for 2 on no murders. We're good. Um, so how
Who
did you
else is the
guys
Craigslist band?
Fat James.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
Fat,
what?
I didn't know
That's
that.
awesome.
yeah.
Oh,
One of
they're the
them
homies.
came from Craigslist. So
Oh, wow.
um must be a thing you guys are doing up in New England. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something in the water up there, I guess. But so how did you guys then kind of, with very different individual backgrounds come to be? Obviously, there's the Craigslist, you know, edge of that
Yeah,
sword, but where's the rest of you kind of how did the Inside Out originally start?
yeah. I'll take that one, and hopefully, the guys can add to it if they want. I started the band with like a group of like old high school and college friends back in like 2018, and they kind of were doing it to help me out, get it started. As it was like a solo project that I started originally, and we after a while, we kind of did our thing, and then I wanted to be a little bit more serious with everything. And around like late 2019, I was actually working at Sam Ash, and the original lineup was kind of like, in and out. It was a revolving door. I met Zach. He was also working at Sam Ash, and he was down to essentially revive the project in a more serious professional way, which was awesome because we were both very like-minded with audio production and the music styles and artists we kind of took influence from. Um, Fast forward like a couple months later, I sent a bunch of posts out on the internet, on like Twitter and everything, and I found Andy on there as a drummer, and we booked a bunch of shows, and we were ready to like start taking on everything that being a band entails in 2020, and then COVID happened. Luckily, the studio that I was working at the time um, was very like close to me, and we kind of were able to like hide up in there during COVID and work on tons of music, and we didn't really get as shut down as a lot of the other bands in the areas did. We actually had a place to rehearse still and everything, which was nice. Um, yeah, and then we found John like like a year later in 2021. So it was kind of all worked itself out right in time for everything to start opening up again.
Yeah, definitely fortunate timing.
Yeah.
One of those, another one of those COVID situations. Just you
Yeah.
guys got you. I mean, a lot of people got down to it and were like starting to do the music thing then because everybody had time on their hands. But you guys just kind of had even more so of the, with bands, it's hard because you guys are in different places. If you're individual, you're fine. But you guys kind of had a leg up on the rest of them then by having space to work out of. So that's cool. And it's cool to see Craigslist is doing people some favors still today.
God bless Craigslist.
So how does the writing and like music creation process work? Does it usually start from someone in particular? Is it always like in a group setting? What's kind of how does a new Inside Out song come together?
I say for the most part, our songwriting process starts with like a base like foundation of an idea that I've come up with myself. Um, Usually at like a 50 to 60% level of like idea. I know I know where I want it to go. I know what I want it to sound like for the most part, but I'm not 100% set in stone on the individual like ingredients that make that up until I present it to the guys, and you know Andy will toss like a drum beat on that's a little different than maybe what I had in mind, and I'm like, that's sick, I like it. Zach will come up with some good guitar parts with me, and we'll sit there and analyze those for hours, which is always helpful. And then John's got a really good perspective on just music in general, where you know he'll say what really matters in the room of like, yeah, I don't like this song, it sucks, or like, but like the input is valid, it's good, and then he'll add a spin to it, he'll help with structure and the bass lines and everything like that. I'd say that's probably how most of our recent songs have been coming together for sure.
It's got to start somewhere,
Did we lose John?
What happened?
I think he's gone.
He jumped into the ocean.
Oh yeah. Oh, he might
Oh, did John die?
There he is.
My phone overheated.
Oh shit.
I'm good now.
Oh, you should maybe jump in the water and cool off.
I'm good. I got the AC going. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I've kind of noticed this in starting to interview more bands and everything. There's always someone that's like main role is just the gut check person of just like, is this like thumbs up or thumbs down? Like, what are we kind of doing with this? And so that's always interesting how everybody's kind of piecing everything together, because obviously you come from different perspectives, playing different roles within the band, like instrument wise and everything. So it's always interesting to see how those come together. Sometimes when you get too many minds in a room, it gets a little dicey, but seems like you guys have it figured out.
Yeah, sometimes we'll butt heads on like certain ideas and everything, and I think it's important to not have too many cooks in the kitchen, but at the same time, I also think that it's important to value all of the opinions and ideas that, get tossed your way. Because there's been plenty of times where I'm like, this song is the song, it's set in stone, this is how it sounds, let's get on board with it. But then there's also plenty of times where, you know, I'm absolutely on the same page of like, I'm not going to die on that hill. I'm down to try out a bunch of new ideas. You know what I mean? So I think it's important to be malleable in that way.
Yeah, if you're not experimenting at least a little bit, you're kind of closing yourself off to what could be something really cool. It also could be shit, but it also could be something really cool.
Don't know until you try.
Exactly. Um, if you had to create a new genre around your style of music, what would it be called?
Jerrycore.
Jerrycore.
Jerrycore. Yeah.
Just listened to a band called or an artist called Jerry Folk. That's funny you say that.
Dark disco.
Oh, okay. All right. Andy with the real answer. Yeah, Andy's with the real answer there. Thank you for bringing us back to 2021.
Those are probably the quickest answers I've gotten with that question. Nobody ever seems to like that question because it makes you kind of come up with something new, and genre is everybody's favorite question anyway to begin with, right? So you guys kind of had those locked and loaded. Dark disco.
I'm definitely with Andy on the dark disco.
Yeah, we came up with dark disco when we released our song Teeth back in 2021. It's got a disco dancey beat, but it's also kind of, I don't want to say emo, but it's dark at the same time as like a upbeat disco beat, so melds the two ideas.
Do you think that attributes to like the rest of the stuff you guys have been working on?
Yeah, I think it was like the perfect transition song from like the older emo songs I was writing in 2019 and 2020, mixed in with the more upbeat style of indie rock songs we've been currently writing and trying to write. It kind of like, it stemmed from Zach and I literally just having fun on his birthday, jamming an idea, and then Andy came and we all jammed it, and it's funny. It was just like, it just kind of, that was probably the quickest song we've ever just done in general, which is why it ended up in between. And actually, we released it before we ended up releasing the full length record, which was interesting because it was actually the more recent song that was written.
It's funny how that works out sometimes. Sometimes like the last piece of the puzzle you add to the bigger project is like the one that stands out and is like the like marketable single of the whole spiel, and you didn't even know it was going to be on there in the first place. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there a release that you've written that you think best embodies who you are as an artist? Like the one song sample of like, if you listen to this, you get a taste of the rest of the catalog, and if you like it, you should be a fan kind of thing. I'm sure everybody will have a different take on it. So,
I mean, honestly, I think our song Teeth might hit that mark nicely. It's got some crazy guitar parts, it's got some dancey parts. The vocals are kind of in and out with like some aggressive rhythmic vocals. Sometimes there's like a little falsetto vocal in there. That might be a good one, but I think Mr. Arrogant for me might be like our biggest like song that like hits every mark, like in a way. Like there's something for everybody in that song for sure.
Yeah, that's my answer is Mr. Arrogant. It was a song that we all fully like collaborated on like together, pretty equal amount. We worked through all the different parts together. So I feel like it's got a good sample of all of our minds put into one song.
Maybe just to be different, I'll say Too Late, because that's like, I don't know. I really enjoyed how that song came together, but Mr. Arrogant definitely checks every box for sure.
I can't help but copy other people's answers here. Mr. Arrogant and Too Late for sure. I guess between those two, it kind of shows like the breadth of, how kind of heavy and dynamic we either do or don't get in certain scenarios. And especially since we, wrote those in similar but still slightly different, periods of time where we were, taking inspiration from, slightly different places. When it comes to that.
Do you think that that's also an accurate sort of forecast, if you will, as to what's kind of either in the works or will be written in the future?
I'd say somewhat from my perspective, like we're definitely, cohesion minded when it comes to, putting together albums and all that, but that's never going to stop us from writing a song that we all, love playing and love listening back to, and that gets us excited. And then, either save that for a future album or a new single or maybe live only, just kind of play that by ear.
Definitely agree with that for sure. When I write the ideas, I write for like a record, like for instance, our upcoming record Road Trip in mind. I've been being mindful of writing ideas and riffs and putting other ones on the shelf that like, oh, this is a cool idea, but it doesn't fit the direction we're going right now. So I'm going to put that on the shelf and not focus too much of my time on it right now. So I think Mr. Arrogant's definitely a good, you know, preview of like all the rest of the songs that are potentially going to be on that record to come. But we have really good times. It's like another upbeat, dancey song. Too Late has its moments where it's very light and indie rock. We've got some other songs on the record that are actually even faster, almost like embody some pop punk flavors to it. I think it's with Mr. Arrogant, like I said, it hits a little bit of everything. So yeah, definitely a good preview of like the whole record as a whole, probably.
I'm always curious with bands, especially ones that have such a collaborative, like creative process. Do you ever, like looking back at the songs once they're finished, do you ever kind of see like some songs have a stronger hint of some members over the others? Like maybe, as a direct correlation of like, you know, this person kind of contributed a little bit more in this one or was more like they led this one a little bit stronger than some others. And so like you hear a little bit like of a stronger presence or it's, has more of their flavor on it. Like, do you ever, like, do you think that if you looked hard enough at it, you could kind of see based on kind of how it came together, who kind of had a heavier hand in different songs within your catalog? If that makes
I
sense.
think yeah, it totally makes sense. I think the biggest factor in that is going to be between Zach and I on the guitar. There's certain songs that like I'll write the original like idea or motif or like riff for an idea and then present to the group and we work on it. And, for the most part, you know, John and I can dabble with drums a little bit, but we're not sitting there like writing a full drum beat. Andy's pretty much got the drums on lock. Like she comes up with, everything herself on that. We might guide her an idea, but it's hard to put our flavor on the drums. With bass, sometimes Zach and I will guide John, but it's not ever like fully hands on unless it's really noticeably hands on. You know what I mean? Like, but with Zach and I, it's like very guitar centric. You can tell if I was very hands off on the guitar and more focused on vocals, or if I was like, no, I'm playing guitar on this song too, so it's got a James guitar part on it. You could really hear that. Or vice versa. Like we have a song that's going to be coming out probably in a couple months called Fever Dreams. It's very like almost prog rocky in some of the guitar parts that like you can tell like Zach's got some crazy cool guitar parts going on, but then there's also some of my guitar parts going on too. You could tell that was a very like collab written song versus like something like Too Late, which was very just like, here's a chord progression, it's vocals oriented, and I kind of was a little bit more hands off.
In that same sort of vein, does anybody have like other like outside of the what song kind of encompasses your sound, does anybody have a song that's different from that you think is like your favorite like of your portion of the contribution, if that makes sense, like your favorite of what you did within that song?
Yeah, I'm really proud of the bass part I wrote on Mr. Arrogant. That's like so far my magnum opus. Yeah, I just slaved over it like forever, and then eventually locked it in. But that one I'm particularly proud of.
Yeah, I can say Always Raining on Your Day Off. It's not released yet. It'll be on the album, but it's more of a bluesy song than the rest of our songs. And it was pretty free form the way we constructed that song from the beginning. And I'm proud of the drums that I made for that, because for the longest time, I just never played that song like the exact same each time we played it live or in rehearsal or whatever. So I just kind of kept molding it slowly over time and picked like my favorite just sequence of all of those different ideas. So yeah.
So, as probably all my bandmates know already, I like to get super busy and technical, sometimes to a detriment, but I'm going to go with like a more simpler instance here. So, like for Too Late, um, I got gifted a few years ago by an old coworker, one of these things called an EBO. It vibrates the string, kind of makes it sound like it's a cello when you're putting it over like a guitar pickup. So I guess even though I'm not moving around a lot, just kind of the expressiveness of that kind of stands out to me as something that I wrote.
Yeah, that's a good answer, Zach. I like that. It's really cool that you're able to control that when you play also. That's not really an easy thing, especially switching back and forth between like picking, finger picking.
That
Yeah,
versus finger pick is easy, but like positioning a small pick
yeah.
after.
It's always wild when I'm like, I look over when I'm singing live and I see Zach, like he looks like a wizard doing all this stuff on the guitar. So if it's gonna be Mr. Arrogant again, it's like probably what triggered us all like, oh, we like this idea, and we all started working on the song in general was the da 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 da. Like it was just kind of catchy, so I like that. It's fun to play.
I like there's a little bit of a variance of answers there. It just, there's a little bit of personality in the different songs and everything, which is always cool to see. Um, if you had to pick two or three artists that you think your music is like a combination of, who would it be?
I mean, for me, that's gonna be pretty easy. It's gonna be Brand New, Modest Mouse, and The Killers. That's kind of like where I derive most of my influence from in general when I'm writing and listening to music. I don't know if anybody else wants to go.
With Modest Mouse, I don't really listen to a lot of brand new myself, but from the songs I've heard, I could see that.
I take probably most of my inspiration from Blink 182, Taking Back Sunday, and probably Van Halen.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my answer is kind of just a copycat. I think The Killers and Modest Mouse is definitely, we sound like them. I'd say I'd add the Strokes into that though. Just with some of the guitar, I can hear that.
I love when it's just like a little bit of different perspectives from, because obviously, it just kind of ends up being a culmination of everybody's influences. And so kind of seeing like, even if some of the core answers are still the same, it's like maybe there's this like 2% that's like, you know, Van Halen or the Strokes. Like there's just a little flavor of it here and there that's just something different than like the core Killers answer, you know? Um, what is an outside passion that you feel impacts who you are as an artist? This kind of goes again around the board. Just yeah.
Somebody wants to start. I love film, TV, movies. I love watching them. I think that listening to the soundtracks and scores and just like of those in general have always made me love wanting to write music in general. Um, it's just kind of putting visuals to everything. I think that's why I like doing a lot of music videos for our songs as well. It's just, you know, that's gonna be my answer for sure.
Guess for me, it would be going on a good hike and just kind of taking a mental break from all the other BS that follows everyone throughout the day and fresh air. Just kind of like a clear head is a great place to start for both songwriting and just also appreciating music the next time that you pop it on in your car after that.
For me, I could say video games. Each game just puts you in a completely different mindset, puts you in a totally different world. And yeah, most games, the music in the games is really important. But just in general, they bring a lot of inspiration to me to see all the possibilities of where the mind can go.
I'm very much into in the way that people are into cars, like I'm into like guitars and basses and vintage instruments. And I think that that just goes like hand in hand with being a player, pretty much.
Feel like you have a little bit of a leg up because you just kind of know how they work a little bit better,
Yeah, I'm a
maybe.
big like tinkerer. So yeah, I like buying new instruments and then like changing all the parts around and customizing them. So if I had more money, I would just do it. Like I would do so much more of that. But
It gets expensive. It's an expensive
yeah,
hobby for sure.
very much so. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, again, another little glimpse at different personalities that kind of make the bigger puzzle, like everything from the most anti-digital and, hiking to being immersed in it in film and video games, Um, yeah, I've had the hiking one before. Nature's always a good little break, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Refreshing.
I've been doing this thing where I take a question from last week's artist for this week's artist. And so the question from last week is, if you could have lunch with anyone in history, dead or alive, who would it be? A true classic.
Hmm.
It's a thinker. Usually the genre one makes people think more, but you guys got right to it, so.
Mm, interesting. Can someone else start this one?
I'm trying to think.
John Landino.
Hey,
Only if you're paying.
Only if you're paying.
Got you. Maybe Anthony Bourdain. Don't know a lot about him, but it seems like he's got a lot to say about food and probably about what lunch we're having.
Oh, I know who it is for me. I wanna have lunch with Stuart Copeland.
Ooh.
His brain. I want to absorb his. I want to like steal his brain. But if you've ever listened to like an interview with him, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I've had conversations with him before, but I think my answer is going to be Isaac Brock. I wouldn't mind hanging out, having lunch at a conversation. I think we'd end up in a rabbit hole of fun musical and non-musical topics.
I think I'll just go with Kurt Cobain. I feel like that would be a very interesting, funny lunch.
Fair enough. Yeah. Um, yeah, there's a million different ways that can go, and there's a lot of different people that would make that rather interesting. Kurt Cobain would be quite a story for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, that would have some takeaways. Better
Who
for
would you
better
have
or for
lunch with?
worse.
Who would you have lunch with?
Who would I have lunch with? God, they asked me this last time and I don't remember who I said. I think I said Mia Hamm because I am born and raised a soccer girl. Like that, I would love to chat with one of the 99ers. Her probably specifically, but um that would probably be my, if I go into a music answer, it's going to be too hard to try and pick one. Like there are probably 20 people that I could put on that list. So I have to just exclude that part of my world and just go into the soccer side of me, and do it that way. So
Nice.
what question do you guys have for the next artist I have on here?
Ooh.
This can
Is
be a
this
group
something
effort.
collectively?
This can be a group effort. I will take multiple options if you want to, but
I have one idea. You guys let me know if you like this idea. What's your favorite album cover of all time?
Oh yeah, I'm down with that. That sounds
Yeah.
great.
that's a good
Decent
one.
one.
Yeah, and that'll get some variant answers too. I'm sure each person will have different answers for that. So I like that.
That's, yeah. That is a good one. You don't really think about the covers too much sometimes, but that's a good, because there's a lot of cool answers out there, whether you've listened to anything on there or not, like just by the looks of them. There are some good, that's a like twist on the music thing. I like that. What is it that you think sets you guys apart from other independent artists and acts?
We're better than everybody else. Just kidding. We're not. I don't know.
I think we're focused pretty much 100% on the music. I think that stands apart from a lot of artists. I think the fact that we all are, well, not all of us, but for the most part, we have our own audio production like facility and studio. We have our own practice space and everything. We're all a little bit older in our lives, and I think because we're just focused on literally just making good music that we like to play for people and release for people to listen to. Without really any other intention. Like, we're not out here trying to get famous on Disney Channel or anything like that. You know what I mean? We're just literally trying to make good music. That probably stands us out a little bit.
Okay.
Not trying to get famous on Disney Channel. That's the first time I've heard that.
Speak for yourself, James.
All
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
Jonas Brothers forever. We are Camp Rock.
Yeah, I mean, it's always interesting, and it's interesting that you say that you're like the focus entirely on the music, because sometimes I think people get too caught up in the other aspects of it, and it's like first and foremost, like if the music's not good, it's not you like that's it. That's block number one. If you can build block
Mhm.
number one, then you can build on top of it. But until you have block number one, anything else is nothing. So, but yeah, I mean, I always like the why behind why people are doing the music thing and everything. And like you said, you're just trying to make good music and enjoy it. And as long as that's where your head is at and that's what you're focused on doing, that's like the whole thing, you know? It's like whatever you want to
Exactly.
get out of it, that's what you should be aiming to get out of it. And it doesn't matter what other pieces of the puzzle somebody might think that you should have going on, or like, what kind of other things you should be putting time into and all this other stuff. It's like everybody has a different vision for what that end goal is or what the like ideal picture is. And it's so easy to get wrapped up in doing XYZ other things that aren't quite that you think might like get you closer to where you want to go, but aren't really like the core of it. And it's like you said, I think that works well to you guys then. Like you said, being a little bit older is like when you're just young and just trying to get into it, you're like, okay, I got to do this and this and this and this. But it's like if you really just cut it down to the meat and potatoes, it's the music.
Yeah.
It's just the music, you know?
Yeah.
Whatever else you want to do outside of that is up to you. There is no right or wrong. There's a million different people who have done it a million different ways. And so you're just doing it your way.
Yeah, exactly. I think for us, I think I can speak for all of us. It's one of our vices. It's cathartic for us. It's just what we love to do. Um, if we didn't love doing it, we wouldn't be doing it. It's as simple as that. And I think in the long run, our goal in doing that, with its catharsis for us, is also if our music is great for somebody to listen to and they can relate to it, I think that's the biggest pleasure we could get out of it in success, is just having somebody listen to our song and come up to us at a show and say like, I love this song, I love the lyrics, I love the drum part, I love the bass, the guitar, whatever it may be. I think that's kind of the whole point. So focusing on that is, I think, the most important thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, you only get up one opportunity to really just do the things. And so if you spend your time doing all these other things that like you think are a part of said main thing, it's about how you're spending that time, not about where it's necessarily progressing to. In my mind, it's about the journey, not the destination.
facts.
um but yeah, no, I think you're 100% right about that, and that's something I need to keep in mind a little bit more often than I do. It's one of those things where it's like the words that I'm saying aren't necessarily in perfect alignment with the actions that I'm doing. So I appreciate the reminder today. um what impact do you want to have with your music, with the band's artistry, What footprint are we wanting to make?
I mean, I kind of got into this a tiny bit with what I just said, but I think the most important thing is just being able to reach some sort of audience for anybody that does, want to relate to the lyrics or the music or just feel something while, they're listening to the music we're creating. Or even just, listening to us as, people talking during these interviews and everything like that. I think that's important. And then the other part is a little bit more selfish, but I think us as a band enjoying what we're doing is also part of the impact that I think we're hoping to just create with this is just enjoying what we're doing while we're doing it, too, just as a group of friends and everything.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice if the music I make or we make connects with people the way like the music I liked growing up connected with me, and just like the respect of my peers is a big plus too.
Yeah. I love the passing of the torch thing that comes up every once in a while where it's like I want to make music that'll impact people the way that music has impacted me. Cuz that's kind of how the cycle keeps going. It's like the
Yeah.
next set of artists and musicians and songwriters will have found what they want to do from someone else who found it
Mm.
from someone else who also found it from someone else. So, um, I love the passing of the torch idea. That's kind of what it's all about. I think that brings us to the last question, which is ultimately the concept behind the podcast, which is why music? This kind of goes to everybody.
I have no other skills. It's all I got. But
It needs to be made. So more the merrier.
Yeah, I think why music for me is it's something I fell in love with at an early age, and I realized I was okay at it, and then it kind of just developed from there where instead of losing the why music, I think it's just grown to why would it be anything else other than music?
yeah,
Uh,
making movies takes too long.
Yeah, right. Well, I can't skateboard, so I gotta make music.
I guess for me, yeah, I started really getting to music in like fourth grade, and I feel like it's just the same songs and albums, but also progressively new favorites over time have just always been there for me during really difficult like mental health times in my life. Uh, so that's listening music, but also playing music, playing the drums has also been there for me during really tough parts of my life. And it's just a constant that I can always rely on to help me through that stuff. Um, so yeah.
Guess also it kind of ties into why I listen to music, to connect and to feel something, profound. So it's like two-way street there, creating and listening.
Yeah. And I think being on the creative side of it, we have this like not leg up, but like extra bonus that we get from music that we connect with and relate to and are inspired by because we know what goes into it being a music creator as well. Like anybody can just listen to music and connect to it and, get all of this from it and have that sort of cathartic experience with it. but there's just this kind of like added level when you're also someone that does that same thing and makes music as well, and just you get to have an extra appreciation for it, because it is something that's just like nothing else out there, and it's an irreplaceable feeling to have it on either end, whether it's the creative side or the consumer side. Like there's just nothing matches music in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that for sure.
Awesome. Well, I think that brings us to the end of this episode of the Why Music podcast. So you can check back again next week for another conversation with another independent artist. Thanks for listening.